What if the secret to success wasn't just talent or hard work, but unshakable confidence? Welcome to Grasp Confidence, the podcast where visionary thought leaders, speakers, and entrepreneurs unlock the mindset and strategies for lasting success. I'm your host, Tara LaFon Gooch, CEO, two-time best-selling author, and international TEDx speaker, and I can't wait to help you step into the most powerful version of yourself. Let's dive in. What does it take to lead one of the world's most iconic brands across 200 countries and still stay grounded in purpose? Meet my next guest, Ahmet Bozer. He is a global business leader with a distinguished 30-plus year career at the Coca-Cola Company, where he rose to serve as president of the Eurasia and Africa Group and later president of Coca-Cola International. He has led thousands across continents, cultures, and crises while cultivating an unwavering belief in the power of values-driven leadership. Through his platform and book, Soldiery, Ahmet now distills decades of global experience into an actionable framework for professional and personal growth. He masterfully blends Eastern and Western wisdom to help leaders elevate performance, find balance, and unlock deeper meaning in their work and lives. Ahmet, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tara. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Well, what a career. It's just incredible when I read your bio. 200 countries, president of one of the world's most iconic brands, and then a total reinvention of becoming a thought leader, an author, an expert, a speaker. Love the work you have done in your life, my friend. I just want to hear about it. What was it like in the trenches of corporate, leading one of those world's most iconic brands, Coca-Cola?
Oh, thanks for that, Tara. What was it like? It was just joy because I love working with people. I love how humanity has so much in common. One of the questions I was asked while I was leading this, well, how do you deal with all the cultural differences in forming teams across different countries? I said, how about we focus on what we do share as human beings and make sure we do a good job of that. And then the cultural differences come as the salt and pepper and the condiments, but the essence is the commonality between us as humans. What that means is if you're leading across cultures and continents, every human being loves being valued. They love being included. They love being recognized. They love to contribute. So all of these are common human values. And if you can stay focused on those, I just found that really worked for me, but it also made it an incredible joy to experience this.
We have a lot more in common than we realize, don't we?
Absolutely.
One of the things that you said really resonated too. We all want to be seen, we all want to be heard, we all want to be validated and recognized, don't we? It's such
Mhm.
an important thing as a leader, don't you think?
Absolutely. And if you can deliver on those with authenticity. So if you have to remind yourself that, oh, I have to recognize this person, uh, that's not very authentic. But when you catch that moment when somebody has truly flourished, they've excelled in what they've done, you don't need to do anything formal. Just go and tell them, whisper in their ear, and just say it. Do it authentically and naturally. Um, that's when I found that you can create, you can make an impact on people, which then comes back to you because they want to give their best in the organization.
I love that. Tell me a little bit about this journey because you didn't start as president of Coca-Cola, right? So I would love to know, take us back to a time when you were a little newer in your career, and then how did you, because people are listening to this right now and they're saying, I want that. I want to be able to really succeed, go to the top. So how did you get from point A to where you were at Coca-Cola, if you wouldn't
Mhm.
mind? In a few short steps. I know it was 30-year career.
I will do that. I'm gonna sort of headline that with one thing though. Whatever happens to us in life, it's half what we do, and the other half is sort of circumstances.
Mm,
And I reckon my own journey. But I did have a vision for because I studied business, I wanted to exercise my profession, which is leadership. That's what I wanted to do. And I always had a streak for international for some reason. Please don't ask me why. When I was 11 years old, when I first went to Switzerland from Turkey, I had the atlas in my hand and I was memorizing the capitals of every single country. So I don't know why an 11-year-old would do that, but I had this international streak. So I wanted to work for a company that would offer me the possibility to work across different cultures internationally. But that's not how my career started. I started teaching and for a couple of years, and then I was an auditor. I was a consultant. I finally made it to Coca-Cola Company using my strengths. That's the thing. One of the some of the senior leaders have said at that time to me was, in every career transition, you basically use your strengths, but that's half of the formula. The other half is what you're going to learn, and that stayed with me. And so as I moved from, um, I even programmed computers. As I moved from finance and IT um, into financial management, general management, it was always the same thing. I've utilized what I knew, but I had to learn the other half. And so, so I'm one of those who've moved from finance to general management. Many of your audience who may be in functional roles in businesses, this is always the dilemma. Do you want to continue growing in your function, or do you want to move into general management? And there's great demand for moving to general management, is what I've seen. Um, and I was able to do that. One of the things that really, really helped me, I think, was when Coke wanted to move me to Turkey when I was 32 years old. It was such a time that the global landscape was changing. Um, Soviet Union was collapsing. New countries were emerging from that geopolitical change, and Turkey, where I went to, has become sort of a hub in a region which gave opportunities for both the Turkish business to grow as well as the um, opportunity to manage other businesses, other countries from Turkey. And I was just right then and there, right at that time. That's what I'm talking about in half the circumstances. But I have really disciplined myself to not only try to excel in my function, try to collaborate cross functionally, and each year try to grow myself in ways that I have chosen. And by doing those, I was able to get increasing responsibilities from where I was. Eventually, from working for just in one country, Turkey. Turkey became a hub for 90 countries, and I became the leader to lead those 90 countries, including Africa, India, and Russia. From there, I had the opportunity to move to Coke International, and I've done that for 3 years. And then the time came to do the transition, and maybe I should stop here because maybe you want to focus on that transition with a
I
different.
love I love that. Yes. I went through my own transition. I lovingly refer to myself as a corporate dropout, right? Um, and there was a time in my career when I just was asking what's next. What
Mm,
is this it? Is there something else I could do? And there's a term out there. I don't know if you've heard it. It's called golden handcuffs.
mhm. Yes, I've heard the term.
Yeah, it's not always easy, and it takes some courage and some bravery to unlock and drop the golden handcuffs. It's certainly not for everyone, but what I have found in entrepreneurship and stepping out and sharing your story, writing books, speaking on stages, it takes a lot of vulnerability, but it's so worth it. It is so worth it. It is one of the most revealing things, I think, that we can do in our professional and personal lives is to become an entrepreneur. I like to say it's the mirror, right? It shows the good, the bad, the ugly, in all the best ways possible, right?
Mm,
Areas of self-improvement and self-expansion, where are possible. But I would love to hear from you because, there's a lot of people listening to this right now. They've got the golden handcuffs on them at they're wondering, "All right, is there more for me? What's next?" What would
mhm.
you say to somebody who is in that position right now?
Yeah. Um, One of the books I read from Peter Drucker years ago, called Effective Executive. One line in there or one paragraph in there really stayed with me. And I read this when I was in my 30s. Um, Basically, he was saying lifespans are longer, but the career spans in a specific company is getting shorter because of
Mhm.
a number of reasons. So, an effective executive always thinks about second, third, fourth careers.
Oh.
So, um, for me, it wasn't so much as the decision to release the golden handcuff, but sort of the time came that I had to move. Um, but I was ready with that second career idea because I've been thinking about it. I've had two roadmaps. One was if my career continues in this company at a higher level, what would I do? I had a roadmap for that. But if my career came to an end in this company, what would I do? So, and when it came to an end, I have already the ideas, and that idea was I didn't know the name at that time, but soldiery um, it was this. Uh, you know, I've gotten a lot of feedback from the people that I've worked with that you know they have working with me, they have grown and developed, and I had some influence on this. And if that's what I was sort of, I had some skills in. Why don't I do something to to produce something that can have a broader reach, not just one company, but reach the whole world with how people can grow themselves. And I've been thinking about this even before, like while I was at Coke. So, but then I've done one thing. It's one thing to contemplate these while you're in the job. It's another thing when you're outside of the job. So
Mm.
you may have a lot of ideas about what may be good and all of that in the context of your existing job. Um, but your psyche changes, everything changes when you step out, when you let go of those golden handcuffs, when you're no longer in this incredibly rewarding social environment with people, teams, the colorful life. And even though to many it might sort of feel monotonous at some stage, or there are things they don't like doing as part of their job, but in its totality, working is a social thing, and we're social animals. When you step out of it, when you're by yourself on your own, um, I just wanted to take a bit more time and ask myself, is this really what I want to do? And um, and and then I decided it was, because it is what I felt I had skills in. It is what I felt I had a passion for, and it was something that I thought I could deliver. And then so therefore I moved into that. So yes, sort of letting go of the handcuffs is one possible decision in this. But to me, it was more like preparing yourself for your second, third career way before
Yeah.
it hits you.
I love that. I love that. And this is the power of, proactively building your personal brand, right? If you proactively build a personal brand, you can be ready before change happens. And I think that's really important too. It's something that I tell my clients, I tell my followers, I tell our listeners that, things change. Everything's going to change. The weather's going to change unless you're in Turkey. It hasn't rained there in months, but it's okay. Right?
Turkey.
That's right, except for turkey. The weather will change, your taste will change, your relationships change, your attitude changes. Change is normal, it's part of life. So I think, one of the best things to be prepared for is change. And one of those things is, by creating some type of a plan. Where would I be at, when my next is? What is my next? What does that look like? And maybe start, proactively building that brand, that online presence, selling, talking about that message. What is the message? What do you want people to take away from your wisdom? I think that's really important. And to do this in a proactive way so that when change happens, you're not trying to catch up as much, right? So talk to us a little bit about soldiery. I love the name. I love it. I'm definitely gonna have to dive into your book. It sounds so interesting.
Mhm.
But what was the inspiration behind this, and why was that important to you?
Yeah, thanks for that. And you asked me about something that's very close to my heart. Um, as I was sort of in my mind, I've always said working for the company I work for was the second best thing I wanted to do in life. It was a wonderful job. It was excellent. But the first best thing is I really had this passion for and joy in seeing people growing, people flourishing. And when I've used a lot of the self-help books, leadership frameworks, you name it, everything to grow myself and to help, and they are all wonderful. But for me, there was always something missing. So if a certain book is telling you do these six or seven things so that you could be successful, um, I didn't want to have to remember those two, three things. I didn't want to force myself to do those six, seven things. I want this to naturally flow out of me as I'm conducting my business every day. So I was very curious about what are the roots of what's common to all of these different self-help approaches. What are the roots for that allows these things to come out naturally? And that's the part of the growth uh, process that I was really focused in. I was because I wanted to do something that just wasn't there. I didn't want to repeat anything that anybody has said before. So being really focused on growth and taking that angle to it, um, I I started working on it, and I actually had to search in myself
Mhm.
for those insights. I didn't want to propose anything that I haven't personally experienced that I can attest to it being true in my own experience. Um, but also in developing it, socializing with people, I started finding out that this has a lot of relevance and resonance across different cultures and different life stages and all of that. So that was the passion that I had for it. But one thing I'd add to sort of connect to your earlier point is when you are redefining your next role, um, there's just going to be a lot of self questioning. What am I doing? Is this right? Um, Do I really know what I'm doing? Is this going to work? And the most important part of this journey is to treat all of those as occasions that you're going to be born into something new from that questioning, and not to give up.
Mm.
Just staying with it. If you're really passionate for it, if you really believe you have the skills for it, to stay with it day after day, month after month, year after year, keep adjusting along the way. That's how it happened with me, with Soldry. And it took me 8 years to write one book of 150 pages.
But it was deep work, and it
It
wasn't
was,
surface level, was it?
yes, and I think the work has changed me to a great extent. And that change wasn't like I changed; it was more like I discovered.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
discovered some things maybe I was doing more sort of automatically, and I discovered some faults. When you look back with a perspective after you step out, you see things much more clearly. So it was more like a discovery journey for me, those 8 years.
Wow, I love that. And, you mentioned something as well that a lot of people across countries, continents, ages, backgrounds, they read your book and they listen to your work and it resonates. And when I hear that word resonate, the first thing I think of is truth. And that can only, something can only really resonate with another human being if it is real truth, right? And that's when we hear a speaker on stage and we get goosebumps, right? That's resonance, that's truth. There's something that you said that, struck a chord for that other person. And this only happens with deep, deep work.
Mm,
We live in an age of AI now, right? ChatGPT. Uh, I question if there's a lot of original thought anymore, right?
mm.
We look even on posts online, we can kind of tell they're, AI driven. What I like about your work is, and what you've mentioned there, one, it's from the lived experience in your life, which can't be faked, right? And then two, that you did take a long while to write the book. That shows me that it was a very thoughtful process and not something that you just put together, right? That's true thought leadership, uh, in my opinion. So I just want to compliment you on that. And
Thank you for that, Tara. Can I
absolutely. Yeah,
interject
of
one
course.
very quick point? You said talking the truth.
Mm,
Uh, I love one of John Lennon's quotes. He says, "Reality leaves a lot to the imagination."
I love that.
Oh, one of the things I try to do is you just can't be dogmatic about things.
Hmm.
In our culture, people are looking for cut and dry approaches to success and this and that. But my understanding of truth is it really isn't like that. All of us will have to find our own way to it. Even all of us will have to have our own definition for it and our own way to it. Whatever it is we're looking for in life. Is it success? Is it happiness? Is it fulfillment? How do we define it individually? And how do we think about reaching it? So instead of providing my version of dogmatic truth, I try to serve a framework for people to find their own because,
Mm,
say somewhere in that I define wisdom as like this. Um, so there is this one truth. You can even argue whether there is one truth or not philosophically, but let's assume there is. Even if there is one truth, what each of us hold is a very small and a semi-accurate sliver of that, a tiny sliver and a semi-accurate sliver of that truth. What transpires around us? Why does it happen? What does it lead to? So if you think about all of this, we just know very little. The I define the act of harvesting wisdom from life is just a lifelong process of making that sliver a little bigger and making it a little more aligned with that truth without knowing what that truth may be. So maybe this is the truth. This is the truth that resonates. And then it sort of empowers people to really find their own way, but then do it within a framework that advances you every day along the way. And the end goal is you're never going to be perfect, you're never going to be complete, but you're going to have joy and fulfillment from this journey itself.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Absolutely. And especially, speaking as a high performer, and I serve high performers, right? They're so focused on that destination, so focused on that destination. And then when the destination happens, a lot of them think, is this all there is? Is this what it is? Right? What's next? And instead of enjoying that journey of learning and self discovery, we're so wrapped up in a hurry race. And it's not about that race, it's about enjoying the process. And I feel like if we overlook that enjoyment of the process and acknowledgement of what we have accomplished along the way, that's when we get to that destination and say, "Is this all there is?"
Hmm. Hmm.
Right?
Yeah. And can I just add to that? I'm
Yeah,
so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you because you've
yeah,
said something that really just led beautifully into another point that see, if you're in the business world, you don't really have the luxury to not worry about the destination. And if you miss your budgets, if you don't deliver projects, you don't have that luxury to not think about that. So this basically is the other foundational idea of soldiery. Life's full of paradoxes. We have to do this and we have to do that at the same time. We can't choose one over the other. But can we devise a way that by focusing on the right process and the right approach, um, then we will get to the destination. However, getting to the destination is never guaranteed. There is never a guarantee. But
that's right.
so, therefore, whether you focus on the right process and enjoy the journey or not, or you just single mindedly focus on the destination, you still don't have a guarantee that you will reach that destination. But if you actually try to get the drivers right, drivers of performance right, and if you improve on them every day, over time, you're going to hit more of your targets than you otherwise would. That's the philosophy approach of soldiering.
I love that. I wanna make sure everybody has some really good actionable takeaways as well. So, tell us a little bit more about your framework and how somebody could apply this in their lives. And what do you think the outcome would be for that person if they applied this in their lives? What do you think the outcome they could expect?
Yes. So the outcome is very clearly defined as this: becoming an increasingly capable, impactful, and resilient person in all the roles you play in life. So, soldiery doesn't promise you you're going to make more money. But if you're becoming more capable and impactful, you're on a much more solid footing to sustainably um, produce wealth or produce financial or other benefits for yourself. So that's what soldiery promises. How does it do it? The framework basically has two components. One's called a self map. So I defined what it means to be human because if we are about growing the human being, we have to define the human being. And I'll spare you the details of that, but it's a comprehensive and deep framework that helps you think about yourself. These are all the resources that I have, even my sense of self, my conscience, the
Mhm.
love I have in my heart, the wisdom that I have, my character, um, my spirituality, my intellect. So everything, the self map sort of puts all of that together and says, hey, this is you. And growing this means that you're making this capable in all its dimensions. And through that capability, you're impacting your network in ways which um, comes back to you to grow you. So, how do you turn this growth cycle, this continuous growth cycle? That's the second part of the framework. It's called the 4 acts of growth. And these basically are guiding you to reflect on different parts of your life. The first one, and then on those reflections, it guides you to take action on them in whatever role you play, whether in a relationship or at work or in working with a project. It's up to you to choose where you want to apply what these 4 acts ask. But in very brief summary, these 4 acts is about one's about find your direction, and that concerns being able to source inspiration from life and find meaning in life.
Yeah.
Second one is training your mind to ensure that you are first focused on the impact you make and then on what you get out of it. Of course, that's important. This is what we're talking about it, but it's very hard for us to do this. We're always thinking about what's in it for me. So that's the second one. What is that inward journey you take so that this becomes second nature, that you're a naturally impact oriented person? That's the second act. So you find your direction, find inspiration from life and meaning. Um, and then you focus on your impact. Then it comes to performing with excellence. So think about yourself as a performing artist of life. You perform in so many roles. And what is excellence in each of these? And how do we pursue that? That's the third act. And then I call these 3 in collection as the offense game. Everything I talked about here, all the decisions you make are totally up to you. What's your life direction? What impact you want to create? And how are you going to excel? But life also has defense. So we're always hit with challenges, adversities we didn't expect that come in most unexpected times. So, what is a way of thinking that helps you grow through those challenges, that strengthens you, that gives you resilience? That's the fourth one. I call that hack your growth. So, each of these 4 acts give you plenty to think about your life, yourself. How do you think about yourself? How do you think about your roles? And how do you grow through them? It just gives you, I think, in the end of the book, I categorize them. I'm asking people to do 19 things. I hate so many things, but this is for your life. You
Yeah.
pick 1 or 2 at a time, experiment with it, whichever one you want, and then move on to the next one. So that's basically the structure.
Love it. Love it. Love it. It definitely resonates. Especially your point about going from what can I get to what impact can I give? And I went through this same journey as well. It's something that I really preach a lot. I woke up, I used to wake up thinking, what can I get? What can I get from someone, something, somebody? To who do I get to give to today? So when you go from a place of deficit to a place of abundance,
Mhm.
the world meets you where you are. And
Absolutely.
you begin to be attracted to other impact makers, other givers, other people with abundance, other successful people. And that's how I shifted my thinking about that was it's not about getting, it's about giving and it's about creating that impact. And when we do that, we naturally get back, don't we?
We do. And, you are so right. I struggled in this part of the book while I was writing because when I was socializing this, people's minds immediately go to altruism versus selfishness. And and I said, this is not what we're talking about. Um, think about all the things you experience in life. There's really one thing that is in your total control. That's the impact you make. The outcomes you get are not in your control.
That's right.
So this is even if you're trying to land a job in an interview, you have to impact the person that you're talking to. if you don't give your fullest to that impact, you're not going to get the outcomes that you're looking for. So it's not altruism versus selfishness. It's a it's even, you can call it, an enlightened self-interest. Whatever it is you're looking for in life, you have to create the impact for it for yourself. So this was a it took me a while to try to write this up, but I'd love for people to look at it that way, because if you try to look at it as altruism versus selfishness, um, it doesn't this concept doesn't fuel you as sustainably. One day you might say, "Oh, I'm living for everybody else and all of this. What about me?" and all of that. But if you internalize and truly understand and internalize this concept that your impact is the only thing you have in your control, give the most to it that you can. So that's the nuance of soldiery.
I love that. So powerful. It's all about the impact we create. And you're right. We are in charge of it. That's the good thing, right? You have agency of your impact. So, anybody listening to this right now and they're wondering, what impact can I possibly make? There's so many voices out there. There's so many really good stories. There's so many people making a lot of impact. What impact could I possibly make? What would you say to that person who's questioning that right now?
Yeah. Well, there's a term that I called legacy mindset.
Mm,
I define legacy in a very democratic way. So, the thoughts and emotions I create in you is my legacy, and the thoughts and emotions you create in me is your legacy. So, that's impact. How thoughtful are we when we're having a conversation with a loved one, or with a valued associate, or with a superior? They're all human beings. And have we thought about the best way to communicate to create the right impact on them? So that's at the most basic level. Now, you can also, in my case, I was thinking, what is the impact I want to create? I wanted to create soldiery. So it took me 8 years, and it's going to take me more years to get it. So that's also impact. But if you were um, in a marketing role inside a company, when you're designing that campaign, what's the impact you want to create with that consumer? Have you really, really focused on that? Or are you saying, this is my brand, how am I going to push my brand?
mm,
Versus, what is the impact I truly want to create? So this impact mindset applies to a single conversation, to a project, or multi-year projects, or decades long legacies. It could be anything, but it's just the mindset you embrace every day.
I love that. It's every post we create. We think about
Exactly.
the impact. We think about the other person. It's every conversation we have, every podcast interview, every piece of content you create, your website. If you're thinking about the impact of what it could have for someone visiting, then guess what? You won't I feel like you won't have a shortage of customers. You won't have a shortage of impact. You won't have a shortage of opportunities in this world because you're so obsessed and focused on the impact drive that you are having. That is so powerful. Um, I so many takeaways really from today. True wealth of wisdom. And I'm so grateful for this exchange and this conversation. I'm sure people listening to this are gonna wanna look you up, buy your book. Let us know where, of course, I'll put this in the show notes as well. But what are the best places to find more about you online, hire you for speaking, get your book, and all of the amazing things that you do?
Mm. And thank you for giving me that opportunity, Tara.
Thanks.
The Soldry has a website. It's www.soldry.com. And almost everything that you've described is there. I'm also on LinkedIn, and I try to post regularly, weekly, and until the book comes out, which is October 28th, and I'll continue after that. And I'm also on Instagram, not with my name, on name Book of Soldry is as one word. So those are the three ways to learn more about Soldry, explore it, and engage with it. Um, I've opened my blogs to comments, so if anybody wants to comment on it, I'll do my best to try to get back because I believe, at the end of the day, we learn through two things. One of my favorite quotes is that we don't learn from experience, but we learn from reflecting on experience, and we don't take enough time for reflection. So this engagement through the website or through the social channels um, actually helps that reflection. As you write something, you are thinking, you're reflecting. And the other way we learn is when we talk like this through conversations. So I encourage people if a concept strikes a chord and they want to express a thought or ask a question or build on what I've said. It's like I'm one person. I'm just sort of sharing what I have learned in life, basically. And I know because I say that in wisdom. Uh, if I reach 100 years old, my wisdom still would be tiny, tiny and would still not be fully aligned. So it's going to be us collectively learning from each other and growing ourselves. So I'd encourage people to engage where they feel they want to.
I love that. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be on this amazing podcast and platform I'm at. Truly enjoyed our conversation today. And thank you so much as well for everyone who tuned in and listened to this episode of Grasp Confidence. Guys, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, follow, and leave a review. We just crossed 1.1K 5-star reviews on Spotify. We could use a little love on Apple. So go ahead and go over to Apple Podcasts, leave a quick review, and share some insights in your review of what you liked most about this episode. We will see you next time. Take care.